Welcome to Agora Afrique, Episode 11. Today, we open a 200-year file on the Nigerian herder-farmer crisis, tracing it back through conquest, colonial roots, and elite failure. To understand why a Tiv or Barome farmer in Benue State sees a Fulani herder not as a neighbor, but as an heir to conquest, we must travel back 200 years, before climate change, before Nigeria even existed. The popular version sounds simple. Uthman Dan Fodio asked the king of Gobir for grazing land. The king refused. Dan Fodio declared a jihad, killed the king, and took the land. That is the story repeated on social media. That story is not supported by the historical evidence. A major reassessment in the Journal of African History argues the war was not planned. It was forced on Dan Fodio when the rulers of Gobir decided to crush his movement. So who was Uthman Dan Fodio? Born in 1754, he was a Fulani Islamic scholar and reformer living inside the Hausa kingdom of Gobir. For years, he preached against unjust taxation, persecution of Muslims, and mixing Islam with traditional practice. His following grew quickly. Not only Fulani pastoralists, but also Hausa peasants, scholars, and merchants who were tired of the existing rulers gathered around him. The movement was wide and multi-ethnic from the start. Here's the twist most people miss. Dan Fodio had actually helped Yunfa secure the throne of Gobir. He was the king's former teacher. But once in power, Yunfa grew terrified of his teacher's growing influence. Yunfa summoned Dan Fodio to a meeting. According to historical sources, the king pulled out a pistol and tried to shoot his old teacher. The gun backfired and only wounded Dan Fodio in the hand. Then, Yunfa seized Muslim captives. When Dan Fodio secured their release, the king threatened to destroy his hometown of Degel. In February 1804, Dan Fodio and his followers were forced to flee to Gudu. That expulsion was the trigger. From Gudu, Dan Fodio declared a jihad, not to obtain grazing land, but to defend his community and to build a state grounded in his Islamic reforms. The cause was religious and political, not pastoral. Here is where the partial truth enters. Fulani pastoralists did have real grievances: heavy taxation, harsh treatment by Hausa rulers, and clashes over pasture access. These grievances helped attract support, but they were contributing factors, not the primary cause. The war was brutal. At the Battle of Tsuntua in December 1804, Yunfa's army, joined by Tuareg allies guarding their own grazing valleys, crushed Dan Fodio's forces. The jihadists lost between 2,000 and 3,000 men, including 200 who had memorized the entire Quran. But the defeat was temporary. By 1808, Dan Fodio's forces had regrouped and grown stronger. In October of that year, they seized Al-Kalawa, the Gobir capital. King Yunfa was killed in the fighting. The old order had fallen. Dan Fodio's followers did not stop at Gobir. They swept south. At Ilorin, a Yoruba general named Afanja invited the Fulani cleric Alimi to help him fight the Oyo Empire. Alimi helped. Then he assassinated Afanja and installed his own son as emir. A pattern had emerged. The jihad overthrew the existing Hausa rulers. It installed Fulani emirs in their place. It imposed the new Sokoto Caliphate as an Islamic political order. And it pushed non-Muslim peoples of the Middle Belt into second-class status. This is why the distinction matters today. When a Tiv or Barome farmer sees a Fulani herder claiming a right to graze on ancestral farmland, he is not only reacting to climate change, he is responding to a 200-year memory of conquest. The modern grazing land myth entered Nigerian politics much later, especially after 2015, used to frame the crisis as a Fulani conspiracy dating back to the jihad. The conquest was real, the subjugation was real, but the simple grazing land story is political polemic, not settled history. And this is where part 2 begins. The conquest established Fulani political supremacy across northern and central Nigeria. When the British amalgamated Nigeria in 1914, they did not dismantle that structure. They weaponized it. Thank you for watching Agora Afrique.